You're watching Avoiding Dangerous Currents on our trip to Kirkwall on the Orkney Islands. This episode covers the journey from Wick in northern Scotland to Kirkwall on the Orkney Islands. John Sutton had joined to assist me in travelling the treacherous seas of Pentland Firth that separates the Scotland from the Orkneys. We had to avoid getting into the strong currents at Pentland Firth and sail east into the open sea. This is a video of my series Adventures with my Trawler Yacht Whitehorse, the Grand Banks 36. First, a short overview of this episode. We left Wick around 10 am as this was a favourable time on the tides. It took us about 2.5 hours to the outlet of the Pentland Firth. Then we headed north to Firth, where we turned west again to sail into the Kirkwall. Kirkwall was decorated with lots of flags as the festivities for the Platinum Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II reign was about to start. Let's look at the map. It took us about 2.5 hours to reach Pentland Firth. At 2 p.m. it was high tide for the Pentland Skerries, the most eastern islands in the Firth, so we would be there about 1.5 hours before that. John advised to take a nearly eastern course from Wick, leading us out about 20 kilometers into the open sea to avoid the strong currents of Pentland Firth. The depth at this distance was about 70 meters. Then we headed north to Firth, where we turned west again to sail into Kirkwall. The morning in Wick was very nice and sunny. Best conditions to take the trip to the Orkney Islands. John Sutton arrived in good time and we could head out of Wick harbour as planned. Although we were far away, we could see the cliffs at the northern end of Scotland. About 30 minutes later, we passed the prominent Pentland Skerries lighthouse. Have a look at the overlay of Open Sea Map and the snippet of the relevant tidal atlas. To use the tidal atlas charts, we have to know the high water time at Dover. This was on 3rd June 2022 at 14.22 hours. As we left Wick at 10 am, we would be coming into the area of the current around 12:30, which would be about 2 hours before the high water at Dover. Looking at the respective chart, we can see that the current at the shortest crossing would be about 8 knots in eastern direction. That's 5 knots at neap tide and 12 knots at spring tide, while the moon was on its 4th day of full moon. Traveling further out east into the open sea, we would only encounter about 0.8 knots current from the northwest. In addition, choosing the correct time of departure did grant us a pushing tidal stream once we had passed Pentland Firth. John's knowledge of the local currents and seas was therefore very valuable for me, and I am very grateful for his good service. Did you like my video so far? Then I would be grateful for you subscribing free of charge to my YouTube channel to help me finance my work. Thank you. 2 hours after passing Pentland Firth, we saw Cockensay Lighthouse before we could sail around Malhale to the Inverness Peninsula into Chapinsay Sound. reached Kirkwall at 5 p.m. and entered the large harbour. John had phoned a friend who was piloting large ships through Pentland Firth and invited him to our boat. Soon he arrived and gave us some good advices for our further travels to Shetland. It was a very pleasant and informative visit, and we enjoyed his presence greatly. John decided, to my great relief, to join me also on my further journey to Wick on the Shetland Islands. After our friend had left, we took a stroll to the town. We were greeted with a myriad of Union Jacks. It was the time of celebration for Queen Elizabeth II, Platinum Jubilee of her reign, and Kirkwall was in for a big party. But we just enjoyed a good tour through the town while John was my guide and finally took a good meal at the Kirkwall Hotel restaurant. Then we headed back to the boat, as we planned to leave Kirkwall at 5 a.m. in the morning. In the next episode, we are traveling further north from Kirkwall to Wick on the Shetland Islands. If you liked this episode, please consider to subscribe free of charge to my YouTube channel using your Google Gmail account, and don't forget to press the like button. I'm looking forward to you being my guest in my next episode. Until then, goodbye.